Ray, here it is, June. It's, usually the dead time of the year with the NFL. But it's amazing how the NFL seems to dominate the news cycle no matter what. When do you recall in your career where that started to be the pattern where the NFL dominated no matter what the season happened to be?
I think it was probably when the draft became a thing. When ESPN was born, right around 79, 80, and they began televising the draft live, which nobody thought could possibly work on TV, but millions of people tuned in, and all of a sudden the NFL had a second season, and it became the draft, and then they just from that point on they just very carefully strategized all the other stuff and worked around it with the the free agency, and then the mini camps, and then the combine, and they've now created basically a 12-month-a-year NFL season where the NFL and the release of the schedule, which now becomes a primetime show. I mean, who saw that coming? So the NFL has very cleverly designed this thing in a way that they're in the news 12 months a year. And that's one of the reasons, not the only reason, but one of the reasons why it's the biggest sport in the country by leaps and bounds.
And part of that, too, is I feel like they've decided to say, we're the NFL, we can venture into anybody's territory. The NBA at Christmas Day, now the NFL's taking it over. What I have found interesting, though, is that they scheduled 2 games on Saturday the 21st, which is the opening round of the college football playoff. And it's the 4 teams that will be playing on Christmas Day. So I understand the thought process behind it. But college football's the feeder system for the NFL. Why would they do that, in your opinion?
Because they can. And because they're the NFL.
Yep.
They've got the Eagles are kicking off their season on a Friday night. Playing in Brazil, and the NFL always say, well, we're never going to play on Friday night because that's for the high schools. Friday Night Lights. That's when everybody wants to go support their high school team. Well, when the NFL had the opportunity to put a primetime game there and kick off the Eagle season and play the first game in South America, they forgot all about the high schools and said, yeah, let's go for it. I mean, I actually think, Steve, I don't like it. I'm sort of old school in the sense that, when I grew up with pro football was a one-day-a-week operation. I mean, everything was played on Sunday. There wasn't even any Monday night football then. And it was great. I thought that was one of the things that made it great, was there was a rhythm to it. You just you played on Sunday, and then you had the rest of the week to prepare and look ahead to the next game, and then you played the next week, and there was that nice little bit of lag time, and every game became an event. Every game became special. And I think the way they're going now, with games 1 o'clock, 4 o'clock, 8 o'clock on Sundays, and Monday nights, and then Thursday nights, and showcase games at the end of the year. There's a little bit of that special quality that's kind of gone now, and I don't know that the NFL will ever suffer by overexposure, but I think that there's a diminishing returns thing, that in terms of, for those of us that remember when football was one day a week, I feel like something has been lost.
See, I've always been one that was the same as you. Friday's high school, Saturday was college football, the NFL was Sunday. So you and I are the exact same when it comes to that. Yet I'll freely admit to people when college games are played on Friday night, I'll say, hey, that's for high school. And I'll freely admit I'm one of the guilty parties. I'll watch the college game on Friday night. So, I am guilty of being a hypocrite when it comes to it.
Yeah, I'm kind of with you, Steve. But there's no bigger football zealot than me. Right. I mean, I am all in for sure. But I do feel. There are sometimes Thursday night football, if I look and it's Tennessee against, you name it, Tennessee against Cleveland. Yeah. I might not watch.
Yeah,
I really might not watch.
I agree.
I kind of feel like I need a break. I need a break. I'll be there on Sunday when they kick it off on Sunday. But right now, I don't need to watch, especially when you see, I want the Thursday night product, which I think is so often compromised. I just think it just seems so inherently unfair to me that they ask these teams to play on Thursdays. Thanksgiving was a special. Everybody understood Thanksgiving was one special Thursday that you played, but to force a Thursday night football into a 17-game schedule every week, to me, just seems like it's unfair to the players who have to play in those games and the coaches who have to prepare.
Yeah, exactly. I also think it's unfair to the fans because I think they're getting an inferior product on Thursday night because of the circumstances.
Right. Yeah. And there's the other part of it that is, I don't want to use the term hypocrisy, but maybe that's what it is. Yeah. But I mean, whenever you see Roger Goodell make the statement that the most important thing for all of us is player safety. Well, is really? I mean, you're going from a 16-game schedule to a 17-game schedule. We're heading on to an 18-game schedule. You got teams playing Sundays, Mondays, Thursdays. But you're going to tell us that player safety is what you're concerned about? No, I don't think so.
Yeah, that's because one of the bigger parts of the NFL season now is called the attrition rate, which you brought up the 18-game schedule, which I was going to talk about. What is your thought about going to 18? Look, Goodell's wanted this for years. The NFL owners have wanted this for years, an 18-game schedule. They've been doing it incrementally because they've had to. But what's your thought on it?
I don't like it. I mean, I know we all knew it was coming, but I don't like it. The owners will do whatever they can to monetize the product. I hate to use that term, but that's the term that they use, the product. And I just think it's wrong. I mean, it all comes down now to not the best teams who's going to win it, but it's to, which teams are still standing at the end of the year. And the league is trying to say that, well, we'll get it up to 18 games now, but we'll only go down to 2 preseason games. So it's really going to be the same thing. Well, no, it's not. I mean, the real players, the veteran players, they're not playing in the preseason.
No.
They're taking a preseason game away doesn't help them at all. If you're tacking another regular season game, well, yeah, they're going to play that one, and so you're making them play an 18-game season. You use the term attrition, Steve. That's the only way you can describe it. I mean, that's the reality of the NFL, and when you see what these guys go through, it just really bothers me that at a certain point, there's a part of me that I just say, how much money do you guys need to make? I mean, really, aren't you making enough now? Do you really, to use the old, the movie Wall Street line, how many yachts do you want to water ski behind? I mean, it's at a certain point, make decisions that are in the best interests of the game. Not necessarily the best interests of your bottom line, but the best interest of the game. And I'm not sure, and I really don't feel that an 18-game regular season is in the best interest of the game.
But here's the other part, too, under the category of how much money do you want. They're trying to internationalize what's going on. So there's a couple of games in Germany. We all know about England. Now this game in Brazil. It's the fans of Philadelphia, as an example, that built your league. And you're taking a game away from them to move it to Brazil? That group in Philadelphia built what you have today. They're part of the foundation why you even have a shot at making all that money. You're taking games away from them. See, I'm bothered by that.
Yeah, I am too. And they try to explain it by saying, "Oh, this is a great opportunity for the people in Philadelphia. They can now go down to Brazil and see the game, and they'll make a great trip, and they'll go someplace they probably would have never gone otherwise. But now they get to go and spend a weekend in Brazil, and listen, they will. I mean, I guarantee you that when you tune in that game, it's going to sound like Lincoln Financial Field because there's probably going to be 30,000 Eagles fans that are going to be there because that's the way they travel. I mean, everywhere the Eagles go, there are that many people that go with them. But does that make it a good idea? I don't think so. And I just think that with all the things that are involved with that kind of travel and everything that's involved with taking a football team and moving them to another country and playing in strange surroundings and all that kind of stuff, I just don't think if the idea is putting the best possible product on the field, which is kind of what I thought that the league should be doing and the commissioner could be concerned with, then I don't think that that's serving that purpose. Will you sell more T-shirts in Brazil? Will you sell more hats? I guess so. But is that a really good reason for doing it? I don't think so. I would rather just, you got a game to play it in Philadelphia.
Well, because, again, it goes back to what we just talked about. When you look at the game being moved out of there, we're going to go to an 18-game schedule. That'll be more home games for everybody. Not necessarily. They're moving them all over the lot. And the fans here then have to pay extra money to go see them play in Brazil. I mean, you already have season tickets. How much more money you need to keep putting in to see the team play?
I know. That's the unfortunately that's the mindset now, and that's why when I first got into the business and I first started covering the NFL in 1970, I mean, a lot of the old owners were still around. I mean, Art Rooney was still around. Wellington Marrow was still around. I mean, you could talk to these guys. George Halas was still around, and you could talk to these guys, and they were true sportsmen. And they were the guys who started this league, and they started it for the best of reasons. They wanted to put the best product on the field, the best players, and they feeling that the best players would create the best game. And that's exactly what happened. That's exactly what they built, and good for them. But the problem is, subsequent generations of owners bought into this for very different reasons. I mean, they got into this to make a lot of money and sell a lot of product and develop a tremendous amount of social clout, which they've done, but at the expense of the game, I think. I mean, I can't tell you how many long conversations I had with old Art Rooney, the chief, and when he would, he would just sit there and tell stories about, when Whizzer White played for the team and Johnny Blood was the coach, and you didn't know if he was going to show up from one week to the next. And that was the foundation that the NFL was built on, and that was part of its charm. But I think over the years it's grown tremendously, and it's now infinitely more lucrative. But is it better? I don't know that I could say that.
Well, I mean, let's face it, the old guard owner would be Pete Rozelle when he wanted to get one TV contract and split the money. Went to Wellington Marrow and said, hey, look, because New York could dominate whatever they wanted. And Wellington Marrow thought it was best for the NFL if Green Bay had an equal shot as the Giants. I don't think there's an owner today that would do that. Do you?
No. Oh, no. And that's why they created the whole concept of revenue sharing.
That's right.
Which allowed the league to flourish and which allowed a franchise in Green Bay to not only survive but be able to be competitive with the New Yorks and the Chicagos and all of that. And I mean, that kind of feeling, that kind of collaboration, the willingness, hey, guys, we're all in this together. I don't think these owners feel that way at all. I mean, I remember interviewing Paul Brown, and Paul Brown talking about when he created the Cleveland Browns back in the 40s when it was the All-American Football Conference before they joined the NFL, that he had to pay the radio station in Cleveland to broadcast their games. He paid them to broadcast their games. Now you look at what the rights fees now, what radio stations and TV stations pay to cover the NFL games. You tell them about what happened in Cleveland back in the 40s, they say you're kidding. But no, that's true. I mean, Paul Brown actually paid the radio station in Cleveland to carry their games. Well, we'll certainly never ever see that day again.
How often have you ever talked with Roger Goodell? And when you have, what impression did he give you?
I've never spoken to him one-on-one.
Really?
I've only been in a number of group interviews with him, but I've never had the opportunity to sit down one-on-one with him the way I did with Pete Rozelle back in the day, and Paul Tagliabue. I just haven't had that opportunity with Roger. But my view of him is that he's he's a guy he's there for one purpose, and that's to serve the owners, and it's all to do whatever they want to do to make more money. And I've always felt that the commissioner should be there to do one thing, and that is be the custodian of the game, the guy that makes the decisions in the best interests of the game, ultimately the best interests of the fans. So, if I would think a real commissioner, if the NFL owners had come to him and came up with the idea of, hey, we're going to play a game every Thursday starting this season. We're going to play Thursday night football, not just Thanksgiving now. We're going to play night games every Thursday for 17 weeks. A real commissioner would say, no, we're not doing that. Right. What are you kidding?
Exactly.
What are you asking the coaches and players to do? No, that's going to throw the whole schedule. No, we're not going to do that. Yeah, but we'll make a lot of money. Yeah, but it's not the best thing for the game. That's what a real commissioner would do. Right. But Roger is, he's running a whole different operation with a whole different mentality. And the idea now is to make all the money you possibly can. And to that end, he's doing a fine job. But is he serving the best interests of the game and the fans? I don't think so. I mean, when you look at the schedule, when you look at what they do, playing regular season games in Buffalo in December, and playing playoff games in Green Bay in January, with people literally risking frostbite to come and see them. Is that the best interest of the game? Prime time, I understand the advertising value of that, but is that really serving the best interest of the players and the fans? I don't think so, but they're going to continue to do it because it's lucrative.
Yeah, Miami and Kansas City was below zero at night and on Peacock. There's your perfect combination. All right.
Oh, hey, listen, my son was a cameraman at that game.
That's right.
My son's a cameraman. He's a cameraman for NBC Peacock, and he shot that game in 40 degrees below zero. I have the pictures to prove it. And as he was fully insulated because he wore all the stuff that he wore at Beijing when he was doing the Olympics, and he was still cold. So was that optimum conditions for players, coaches, or fans? No. But it made for good television, and everybody walked away richer.
Always a pleasure, no matter what time of the year. Ray, thanks so much.
I'm glad we finally connected there, Steve. Always fun talking to you, too.
Thanks. I want to talk about Paul Skeens out of the gate because, he's been able to get through, 6 starts to this point, 2.43 ERA. What's been your impression of how he's been able to, A, go about his business, but also handle the pressure of being the number one guy?
Yeah, I'm not surprised at all that he has been this good. His college coach told us last year he's ready to pitch in the big leagues right now as a senior in college. He's been around. He's been in some good and some not so great spots. He is incredibly mature for a guy who just turned 22 years old. But more than anything is he has overpowering stuff. He has broken records already for velocity for a starting pitcher. And he's 6 starts into his career. I knew he would be great. I knew he would be great right away, but he's been even better than I thought. Because when you throw this well, this hard, with secondary stuff like he has, and you can command it like he does, it's an amazing, amazing combination.
Tim, when he was at Air Force, he was a catcher. Now, he also pitched. But he was a catcher at Air Force. I know the Air Force people were the ones that said, hey, look, for you to really get to the next level of life, you need to probably go to a place like LSU. But what does that do to the fact that it really isn't tons of mileage on this arm to this point because of that experience?
Yeah, and anyone who was a catcher at one point is good with me because catchers are a different breed, and he pitches like he's a catcher. And that's a compliment because he's used to taking hits and he's used to throwing off balance. And I think the lack of mileage on that arm is hopefully going to lead him in the right direction. And I'm not sure there's anything at this point that's going to slow him down, because when he was at the Air Force Academy, apparently he was on the line one day singing the national anthem or something, and a couple of his teammates, weren't respectful enough to what was going on. And he looked at them and said, "This is how we do it here." And he was an underclassman showing them how to properly stand at the line during the anthem. This is what this is what leaders do. And that's what he is. Beyond having great stuff and being incredibly mature, he's amazing. He has amazing leadership qualities for a guy that young.
Yeah, because I just had this conversation with David Carpenter, who had been a catcher at one point here. Then he went to the majors eventually with the Cardinals, Astros, Braves as a relief pitcher, and about the benefits of being a catcher and then becoming a pitcher. Let's talk catchers for a moment. JT Realmuto out probably about a month. For the Phillies, this is a guy that's tough to replace. What's your sense on what this means to Philadelphia at this point? And is Dave Dombrowski the kind of guy that ever panics over stuff like that?
Well, it's a huge loss. He's one of the 2 or 3 best catchers in the game, and his defense is almost unrivaled. And he's going to miss a month, and they don't have a replacement that is going to... Garrett Stubbs can really catch, and he's a tough little guy, but he's not JT Realmuto. But the Phillies have the best record in the National League. Their starting pitching is tremendous. Their offense is loaded, and it will get more loaded when Trey Turner comes back maybe the beginning of next week. So they're going to miss Realmuto? Absolutely. Is this going to knock them out of first place? Absolutely not, because the Braves aren't the same team that they were last year, and the Phillies are a better team than they were last year. So they can handle this, even though they're going to lose a really good player for a month.
Tim, what's been your thought on the Phillies starting rotation and what that rotation has meant to allowing this team to put the record together they have?
Yeah, the rotation has the lowest ERA of any rotation in the major leagues. And I thought they had good pitching. It has been great. And Ranger Suarez has been the guy who has gone from a good pitcher to a great pitcher. During October last year, Steve, spent a lot of time with Brad Miller, who was with the Rangers, former player, been around a lot, smart guy. And he just volunteered to me. He said, "You watch in 2024, the pitcher that's going to go make a big difference and go from a good pitcher to a great pitcher is Ranger Suarez." And that's exactly what he's done. He went 9-0 in his first 10 starts with an ERA under 1.50. The only pitchers ever to do that are Hoyt Wilhelm and Juan Marichal. That's how great Ranger Suarez has been so far this year. And you put him with Nola and Wheeler and Taijuan Walker. That is a loaded rotation. And when you have a bullpen that's that good right behind him, then you really got something working.
What did he see in Ranger Suarez where he thought he could make that move up?
Right. Well, again, he's another guy who never, ever panics about anything.
Right.
He's also one of the best fielding pitchers I have ever seen, and his stuff, even though he's not overpowering you at 98 miles an hour, he has such a good idea of what pitching is about, the art of pitching. And that's what Brad Miller saw. Stuff is above average for sure, but the understanding of the art of pitching is way above that.
The Yankees just went through a big series with the Dodgers. Dodgers took 2 out of 3. Now the Orioles are coming up next week. The Orioles have been right there, not quite toe-to-toe, but they're close. What has been your thought about the Orioles and how they're put together at this point?
Well, I love where the Orioles are, except they've had a bunch of injuries to their starting pitching here that has really set them back just a little bit. I mean, John Means had started to throw pretty well, and now looks like he's out for the season. Kyle Bradish was hurt for a while, but he's back, and he's really good. Grayson Rodriguez went on the disabled list for a short time. He's back, and he's really good. And, of course, Corbin Burns at the top of the rotation. So I think, this team has lost a lot of pitching through injuries, and yet they have recovered, And their bullpen, which was a big concern without Felix Rodriguez, Felix Bautista has been very, very good. And, of course, they can score runs with anyone. They can hit home runs with anyone. So they are, to me, the second-best team in the American League to the Yankees. And right now the Yankees are just on fire.
No question. A friend of mine just went to a game between the Rail Riders and the Norfolk Tides. And, of course, the Tides are with the Orioles. And he said Jackson Holliday homered. What struck him, though, is that as impressed as he was with Holliday, he said they've got a couple other prospects that kind of blew him away. What kind of depth have they developed in the Orioles organization, in your opinion?
Yeah, it's the deepest farm system in baseball, that's for sure. And what they've been able to do, because they lost so many games and put themselves in such a difficult spot, they got these high draft choices, and they have made the most of it. It's one thing to get draft choices, but you have to pick the right guy, and then you have to develop that player properly. And the Orioles have done an exceptional job of that. And that puts them in a great spot at the trade deadline because they're going to have young players that they can deal if they want to. And they were reluctant to do that until this offseason when they said, all right, we need Corbin Burns. And they gave up 2 good young players to get Corbin Burns. But now they can get more if they got to go get a closer or another starting pitcher. We'll see if they part with another top prospect or 2, but they're in a really good spot because they have resources that others just don't have.
I mean, Tim, you and I both know that not everybody can thrive in New York, and the ones that do end up being spectacular. What has allowed Juan Soto, both not just performance but personality-wise, to thrive with the Yankees?
Yeah, first off, he's a great hitter. And when you're 25 years old and you have this kind of track record, you don't think anybody can get you out. He's also, he's played in the World Series. He had cleanup in a World Series game at age 20. Mm-hmm. 3 players in history have ever done that. So he is oblivious to the pressure. He loves the bright lights, and the bigger the better for him. And then once he stepped in that ballpark and saw I can pull the ball down the right field line, hit a home run here, I'm hitting in front of Aaron Judge in the order, I think he looks at it and says, I am in the perfect place right now, and I would agree. Their offense is demonstrably better than it was last year, and it's, A, because Judge is having another MVP caliber season, but also because Juan Soto has shown everyone on that team this is how you take a professional at-bat. He never gives up a pitch. He never gives up an at-bat, and he has helped everyone else on that team become a better hitter.
Yeah, it looks like the Yankees are taking longer at-bats, like the old days. I mean, the Red Sox and Yankees almost perfected the I'll get you to 100 pitches by the 4th inning. Has Juan Soto had that kind of influence on everybody in the lineup that, hey, look, it's okay to look at a few?
Yes, they were 27th in the league in on-base percentage last year. And as of the other day, they were first in the league this year. And that is what Juan Soto has brought. Now they see him lay off that pitch, 4 inches outside. And instead of chasing it, he takes a walk. They watch him not chase early in the count, swinging a pitch that he shouldn't be swinging at, and giving up an at-bat with a weak fly ball to right field. That's what he's shown them. And again, Aaron Judge didn't need to be shown much, but I think even he has benefited from watching Juan Soto swing the bat every day.
The Dodgers made a move to pick up Biggio from Toronto. And one thing, when you look at what the Dodgers have done, some of the, quote, role players have not been having big seasons. So we know they're playing well. But where do they see their gaps right now based on what they just did?
Well, basically, Kevin Biggio came for free. So it was a great move because he's got great versatility. He can play second base and third base. He can play the outfield. He's been around. Son of a Hall of Famer. He's been through a lot. And I think he's really going to help the Dodgers as a very valuable utility guy. But I don't think the Dodgers have many holes right now. Their starting pitching is going to get healthier once they get Walker Buehler back to where he was, say, a couple years ago. He struggled a little bit coming back from Tommy John surgery. They're going to get Dustin May back. They're going to get Tony Gonsolin back. And, of course, they're going to get Clayton Kershaw back. They may need another bullpen arm, but they have all the resources they need to get that. There's not much the Dodgers need to do. They're loaded now, and they're going to get better from here.
Who or what has surprised you, if anything, so far across the board?
Well, the American League Central has surprised me. I didn't see the Guardians being this good or close to this good. I thought they had pretty good starting pitching, and then when Shane Bieber went down, I said, oh, boy. And I didn't think they were going to score enough runs, and yet they've been a significantly better offensive team than I thought they would be. And where they are in the standings right now is beyond surprising to me. And the Royals are better than I thought they would be also. You know, they lost 106 games last year, and they have played, until recently, exceptionally well. And I think both of those teams are in it for the long haul. I think the Twins are right there, too. But I just love it to see when a team, you know, figures it out. And it looks like the Guardians under Stephen Vogt have figured it out.
Tim, always a pleasure. Thank you so much for the time and all the time you give us. Very much appreciated.
My pleasure, Steve. Thank you.